Hey everyone, it's Kayla here, and we are going to be talking about how to color in white objects today. So, white things are not always just solid white. There are a lot of shadows in white objects, and so I'm going to show you using a daisy today how you add those shadows in and make it look realistic and not just white. So, as you can see here, when working on Procreate, instead of just using a white background, it's a little easier if you turn the background off. So you just select your layers box on the upper right hand side, and you go all the way down and you uncheck that box that says background. So you're going to turn the background off. So you just have a black background. So that's what I did, and that way it made it easier for me to see what I was coloring white. Those of you that are using actual paper, though, you don't have to do this step. You just skip this step and you use your pencil. Just use your pencil as your guideline. But I'm probably going to use this as a clip art, so I wanted to have that white base background when I delete the background, so that's why I did that. So all that to say, if you have paper, if you're doing this on actual paper, then you can just skip this whole step of deleting the background and doing all that because your background is already white. So after I got the flower base painted with a very opaque, solid brush on Procreate, I'm going to come back in with some shading. So I looked at my flower reference photo on the left, and in that picture you can see there's a lot of gray. You know, there's about half white, half gray going on in this flower right here. So I went in my colors and I chose maybe a medium color gray. You can pick whatever gray that you like that suits your drawing the best. And as you can see, I'm referencing my photo and I'm looking at each petal. And if you look closely at each petal, you can see the white shapes, the shapes on each petal that are white and the shapes that are gray. And so I'm just going in each petal right here, coloring in the parts that are gray. And I'm just leaving all the spots that need to stay white. And you're going to do this if you have white paper as well. Just ignore that black background. If you are using paper, you're just going to go and you're going to outline draw your whole daisy with your guidelines with a pencil, and then you're going to come back with a gray on top of your white paper and just start with your gray. You're not even going to do the white part on a white background. Now, of course, if say you're painting, you're using paint and you have a canvas and you painted your background blue and you want your daisy on top of that, you let your blue background dry and you want to come back on top of it, then you would paint your solid you would take your white and paint your white daisy and then come back with your shadows and your grays. So here I see in the picture, you can see that gray circle shadow from the center of the flower. It's that shadow that's being casted because the sun in this picture is on the upper left-hand side. And I know that because of the shadows in this picture. There's a shadow on the right side, kind of angled towards the bottom left of this daisy, So the light is coming from the left upper hand side, and it's casting a shadow across the page, across that daisy, and that's why the shadows are on the right, kind of lowered, angled towards the bottom. So I'm just continuing to shade here and just add shadows. Looking at my reference photo, just using that same gray color that I was using before. And I'm just finishing off all these petals. And this goes with any object. I'm doing a flower right now that's white, but it can be any object. It can be a white vase. It can be, any white object that you can think of. And that is what, you can use the same process using the gray. And sometimes it's not always a gray color. It could be a like a very pale yellow, or that's where you just have to reference your photo, look at your photo, and really just hone in on the color. Don't look at it as a whole. Really break it down and look at each different color in that object, and that'll help you pick a gray, or what color to use as a shade on the white. So I'm almost done here doing the gray on the flower. And I'm about to go ahead and turn the white back on. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And so I can really see my flower now. It's so much better on the white background. And I was looking in my reference photo, and I see that I have a little bit of some yellow tones in my photo, mainly from that golden center. And I'm just going to add those around where I see some golden shadows underneath that center of my flower. And now I'm going to go ahead and do the center of my daisy. And I went back to my original brush that I did the white in. And I'm just going in with a opaque brush that really fills in the color well. And I'm going to make a separate layer and do the center of the flower. And so I did a base color, which I think is going to be my lightest color here. And I went and got a little bit darker golden orange color, and I'm coming back in with just some dots. I see the texture in the middle of my flower. If you look at the texture of the flower, it's got a lot of dots on the daisy. So that's kind of what I'm doing, just to add a little texture to the center of my flower. I'm coming in with some dots, and I see that that's my next color that I want to shade in, that medium orange color. So that's what I'm using next. And I'm just looking at my photo. I'm seeing, where the next color, the shadows are on the center of that flower. And that's what I did. And now I'm going in with a little bit darker color. And I'm basically just continuing to layer on those shadows until I get happy with, how it looks. I'm still using my dots. Here I'm changing the pressure of my brush. So I'm just adding in some of the darker colors on the center here. And I have the pencil layer that I drew my sketch on in a separate layer, so I could turn it on and off whenever I wanted to throughout my drawing, so that I could check on my gray shading to make sure that it looked okay throughout the whole process, to make sure that my shadows were doing the right job, the right angle, you know, where they were placed were in a good spot. And so also when I do turn off my sketch layer, it would also help show me what I needed to fix on my flower, because I don't want that sketch layer. Now, if you were drawing on paper, then that's a different story. You're going to keep your sketch layer and you're going to just draw it really lightly. But on Procreate, you draw, most of the time I draw sketch, and then I come back in with, you know, my colors and everything, and then in the end, I can turn my sketch layer off so it's not seen. That's just one of the benefits of drawing on Procreate or digitally. So I love that part about it. So now that I turned off my pencil layer, I saw where some of my petals were blending into the background. And so here I'm just adding that original gray I had around the outline of some of my petals so they can be seen. Another suggestion would be just to turn down the black pencil line. Like, you could make it a different color and make it lighter. You could turn down the opaqueness of that layer, and so it wouldn't matter. You could turn it down so it wouldn't show up as much. But here, you know, you could see on the left side I added some gray there because when I turned my pencil layer off, I could really clearly see where I needed to add some shadows. So I think I got it just about done. I did go and add a little bit darker gray around that yellow center, just to give it more of a darker, there's a darker shading around that yellow center. I'm adding back in some of my yellow here in the shadows because when I put that darker gray on top of it, I kind of covered some of it up. So this was a flower I did the other day and I really like the greens in it, so I'm coming in using my color picker tool, sorry. And I am using that color green because I liked it so much, and I'm going ahead and making the stem. I'm just looking to see if what kind of leaves are on a daisy. I don't know, but I'm going to make up some leaves. So here's what I want my leaves to look like. I'm just adding a couple leaves in there. I'm getting a little bit lighter green, and I know the sun is on the upper left-hand side of the flower, so I'm going to add those highlights here as if the sun were up there in that area casting down, and adding that light on top of there. And then I'm coming back in with a darker green, darker than that first green I used, and I'm adding some shadows underneath on the bottom of the leaves and right there underneath where the beginning of the stem of the flower connects to the daisy. So, and now when I turn my background off, you can see the daisy really well. So if I wanted to use it as a clip art, I could, and it looks like a white flower with some shadows. So I think it came out good. Now I want to go back and I'm adding in a little bit of that really dark brown and making some actual little circles to look like those little, I'm going to call them seeds. They're little circles on the center of my flower. And that's what I'm doing here. And I think I pretty much got it done. So there it is. That is the finished daisy, and that's how you color in white objects. You can use this technique with pretty much any other white object, you know, you can use that uses shadows. And go check out my other YouTube drawing tutorials on my channel. And thank you for drawing with me today. I'll see you next time.